If you've ever tried to learn Tunisian crochet and ended up with 10 tabs open, 3 half-watched videos, and a fabric that's curling like it's mad at you, this video is for you. Because today, I'm putting everything you actually need to know about Tunisian crochet into one place. Hey crochet friends, I'm Mo, your crochet companion. Today, I've put together this Tunisian Crochet Master Class to bring all of my core Tunisian tutorials into one convenient video, so you can learn without hopping all over YouTube trying to piece things together. You can watch this straight through from beginning to end, or skip around using the timestamps and jump to exactly what you need. We'll start with the Tunisian Simple Stitch, build into the Tunisian Knit Stitch, talk about how to control curling, explore color changes, work through Tunisian Chevron, and finish with Tunisian crochet in the round. And if you prefer learning in smaller chunks, every lesson in this masterclass is also available as its own individual video. This is about giving you options and saving you time. So, grab your hook and yarn, settle in, and let's learn Tunisian crochet together. Have you ever wanted crochet that looks like knit but doesn't require 2 needles or a trip to therapy? Welcome to the Tunisian Simple Stitch. This stitch is the foundation of all Tunisian crochet, and honestly, it's way easier than it looks. Hey crochet friends, I'm Mo, your crochet companion, and today we're diving into the Tunisian Simple Stitch, the gateway into a whole new crochet world. It's satisfying, it's close-knit, and it gives you that beautiful knit look texture without switching crafts. By the end of this tutorial, you're going to know how to start Tunisian with either a foundation chain or foundation row, how the forward pass and return pass actually work, how to keep the edge from going wild. Well, that's a technical difficulty. We will discuss that a little bit, and how to work the final row so your edges match, and when you can get away with using a regular crochet hook. Trust me, you'll feel like a wizard when this clicks. Okay, so now let's start with the tools of the trade. Obviously your yarn, and you're going to need a knitting, well, not a knitting needle, a Tunisian hook that matches your yarn. So for this particular yarn, I would recommend using a 5, and I don't think I have a 5. So I have a 5.5 and I have a 4.5. So it depends on how fat you want it to be. So you could do a 4.5, a 5.5, 5 millimeter. I actually am going to use this one. I have no idea what size it is. Oh, it's a size I. This says, I think. I don't know if I can get it so you can see that, but on the very end there it says that it's an I. Well, yeah. Anywho, so the regular Tunisian crochet, you can use your knitting needles. Believe it or not, I found these in my stash. Apparently, when I got my grandmother's crochet stuff, she also had some Tunisian hooks in there. I had no idea. Had no idea I had these, but anyway, so I found those. And when you're crocheting in the round, it's actually to your benefit to have a double-ended crochet hook. So what I mean by that is that both these ends have a crochet hook on it. So I'm not gonna teach you how to do the crochet or Tunisian in the round a day, but that is one of the future tutorials that I'm going to be doing. And then finally, there are these type of hooks where it has the extended plastic piece, and this is great for when you have big Tunisian projects, like if you're doing a blanket or whatnot, because you're going to need a lot more space when you do a blanket when it comes to Tunisian crochet. I also wanted to mention, so your Tunisian hooks, you can, if it's a smaller project, you can use a regular crochet hook as well. You don't necessarily need the fancy Tunisian crochet if you have like a small project. Like, so what I'm doing today, this kind of a project, I could actually get away with just doing, using a regular crochet hook. I'm not, because I want it to be authentic for everybody so that you can learn it as we go. And one of the things, one last final thing that you're going to need, just a little bit of patience. Not a lot, but a little bit of patience, because it does take a minute to kind of get coordinated to do this. Okay, so there's actually two ways that you can start Tunisian. One is the usual chain stitch. You know, you just do the chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 type of thing. Or you can also do the foundation row. So like a single crochet foundation row. That's what I use quite a bit too. And then the great news is that Tunisian works with any number of stitches unless a pattern specifically tells you otherwise. So for this practice swatch, just pick a number. I'm actually going to be doing 12. So to start with, I'm going to show you the chain foundation row first. Let me go a little bit closer. I don't know how I got out there so far, but I figured you might want to actually be able to see what we're doing. So you're going to crochet in the second chain from the hook, but we're not finishing, you know how we do a normal crochet when you do a single crochet, you know, you crochet it off the hook like this. You're not going to do that. For now, you're just going to insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and you're going to leave that loop on your hook just like that. You're going to go into the next chain, yarn over, pull up the loop, just like that. And you're going to keep doing this across until your hook is nice and full. We're collecting the stitches like overdue library books, right? That's kind of funny, right? Anyway, so that's what you're going to do if you're going to do a chain, and you're just going to keep the chain foundation, and you're just going to keep going like that until you get to the end. There's a reason why I prefer the like doing a single crochet foundation row or something like that, and that's because it has a better, I don't know, it just lays better. Now Tunisian, you're going to curl anyway, but it just has a better end structure. So this one I did the foundation, single crochet foundation row, and look how neat that is. It just looks nice and neat, and by the time we get done, you're going to see that both the top and the bottom are going to look exactly the same, and that's what makes the difference. All right, so now that you've seen how to do it with just a chain foundation, I'm going to undo this and show you how to do it with a foundation row. Now, before I show you the foundation row, I have a silly question for y'all. Has your project been blessed by a pet yet? Are you still working uninterrupted, like some kind of legend? Now, I'm uninterrupted just because I'm doing this on the table, but whenever I crochet, my dog decides to join me. So how many of you have cats or dogs that decide to join you on your mission? Okay, back to business. We're going to do a single crochet foundation row. For those of you who want to learn a little bit more detail about the single crochet foundation row, I do have several videos. One is single crochet, double crochet, and I think I snuck in a half double crochet foundation row. Then there is I think I did one on half double, treble, and double treble. And then I have one that's just all of them together. But we're going to just do this real quick so you can see how this works. I'm going to do a single crochet foundation row. So chain of 2, we're going to insert our hook into that first chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, we're going to pull through 1 stitch, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we're going to take a look at this direction, and in this V right here, the little braid looking piece, we're going to insert our hook into that spot. I'm going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through one loop, yarn over, pull through two. We're just going to keep going that way until we get to the number of stitches that we want. So for me, I want to do 10. So I'm going to do 10. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, fighting with my yarn, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, got my 10. Now I'm going to turn my work a little bit, and in the very first stitch, we're going to do just like we did with the chain. I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now you've got 2 loops on your hook. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. So this is what you would consider your front pass. You're just going to keep doing that in every single stitch. Let me get everything out of the way. I got too much stuff on my little table today. I felt like a kid in the candy store. My show and tell. They say crocheting is one hobby, and the tools, the yarn, that's a whole nother hobby in itself. So apparently I have a lot more hooks than I ever thought I had when we go into it. But anyway, also Tunisian is one of my favorite things to do as well. Everything's my favorite. I just love to crochet. That's all there is to it. I just love to crochet. Okay, so now we're going to go, the return pass is what we call it, the return pass. So I'm going to pull my loops close to the front of my hook first. Then we're going to yarn over, and we're going to pull through that first stitch, just the first one. Then we're going to yarn over, and always on that first one, I always like to try to keep it as loose as possible, not too tight, because you're going to need that on your next forward pass when we start getting into the simple stitch. Okay, so now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to the end. Just like that. And you do want to be conscientious of your tension. While you can kind of fib a little bit, and there's going to be some tension issues with Tunisian anyway, because it does curl, and I usually find that when I get to this end, this side's a little bit bigger than the other side. I don't know, just something that I've noticed. All right, so now we're going to go into the actual simple stitch itself. Okay, now let's identify where we're going to put our hook. So you see we have these nice, wonderful vertical bars, right? These nice, lovely vertical bars, right? We are actually going to insert our hook into that vertical bar. See how it's, actually, I don't think you can see the vertical bar on the other side. No, you cannot see the vertical bar on the other side. You're just going to see it on this side. So you're just going to insert your hook right underneath that vertical bar. We're going to skip this first right here. This first one right here, that's the one on your hook is going to be considered your first Tunisian stitch, okay? Now, we're going to go under that first vertical bar. We're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and we're going to leave it just like that. Insert our hook into that next one, yarn over, pull up that loop. insert, yarn over, pull up the loop, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop. Just like that all the way across. You're leaving those stitches on your hook. Now, when we get to the end of the row, this is where it kind of be tricky sometimes, because you notice that there's really not a clear spot to put it. It's not a clear vertical bar. So what I like to do, because I like my end to be kind of, it looks like a braid, right? So I kind of move my work out just like I would if I were doing a single crochet foundation row. I find that braid and I insert my hook under that braid or that V, under both of those. Then I yarn over, pull up the loop. That's your last one of every single row, okay? Now we're going to yarn over, make sure that you kind of keep that first stitch loose, pull through one loop, and then the rest of the way you're going to yarn over, pull through two, 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 all the way to the end. And make sure that you're keeping your tension consistent. Doesn't matter if you're loose or tight, just make sure that you're consistent with your tension. And that's pretty much the way you do it on every single row until you get to the size that you want. Now, if your project is small, like I've kind of mentioned earlier, you could use, you know, like if you're going to do a coaster or a swatch, you can totally use a regular crochet hook as long as your loops fit. For bigger projects, you'll want to eventually upgrade to an extended Tunisian hook, like the longer one. And then if you're going to be doing things in the round, you'll want the Tunisian hook that has a crochet hook at both ends. And in future videos, I will be teaching how to crochet in the round as well. Let's get to what we would call the bind off. It's a similar term as used in knit. You do have to bind off, and the reason why we want to do that, because you notice on this last row right here, kind of looks like there's a nice little gap. It doesn't look like it's complete, right? So you want to bind off in order to make sure that that has a completed look. So to bind off, it's actually very simple. You're going to do just like as if you're going to do a simple stitch. You're going to insert into that vertical bar. You're going to yarn over, pull up that loop, and you're going to complete it. And this is only the final row to finish off your swatch or your piece, whatever it is that you're doing. That's what you do to bind it off or complete the final row. Just like that. And you'll notice as I'm doing this, it's creating that braid on the top, right? And while I'm doing this, I wanted to mention that Tunisian naturally does curl, and I find that I do have to block my work. And if you've never blocked anything, check out my video that I show how to steam block your work, especially acrylics. It's actually pretty simple and it's very effective. So that's what it looks like once it's done. Now, some of you that have been keeping up with my videos are going to be thinking, now, Mo, this kind of feels like the link stitches. And you're not wrong. They look very similar because they're both gap-free techniques. But here's the difference. With link stitches, they work sideways. So instead of working vertical, you kind of work sideways. It's the only way to put it, right? And then Tunisian works forward and back. Tunisian creates this gorgeous, dense fabric without sucking in the sides. Now, the other thing is that you'll notice that even though it's like the link stitches is vertical, right? But you're doing one stitch at a time, whereas Tunisian, you're actually putting all of your loops on at the same time and then working your way off. So that's another difference between the link stitch and the Tunisian stitch. Now, if you would like to, and you've never learned how to do link stitches, I do have a couple videos that are very detailed, and I'll make sure that I link them in the description and pin comment, okay? Now, next week, we're actually going to be working with the Tunisian knit stitch, and we're going to create a project with it. So my favorite hat is a messy bun hat, and I need a new one. So we're going to use the Tunisian Simple and Knit Stitch to create a messy hat bun. So get yourself some yarn for next week and get you a couple of ponytail, well, at least one ponytail holder. Okay, what you're going to need. You're going to need a Tunisian hook. I'm using a size I hook. And you're going to get your yarn of choice and some realistic expectations. Now, before we actually do anything, before we knit anything, we need to create a base. I created the single crochet foundation row. You can do a chain foundation. If you don't know how to do the single crochet foundation, then I actually showed that in my simple Tunisian video, as well as I have a couple of other videos out there that are strictly about the single crochet foundation, or well, basically all of the foundation rows that you could possibly make. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and stop the video, go ahead and watch those real quick so you know how to do this next step. So it's your choice. You can do either single crochet foundation row or a chain plus the forward pass. That's your dealer's choice. From here, we're going to work on the forward pass because that's where we set it up so that we can add this knit stitch. So to do the forward pass, just like in the simple stitch, we just do insert our hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. We're going to leave that loop on the hook. Yarn over, pull up a loop, insert a hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and you're going to keep doing that until you get to the end of the row. Okay, so now let's do the reverse pass. So it's going to be a yarn over, pull through just the first loop, then you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way till you get to the end. All the way to the end. Just 2. Sometimes I accidentally pull it through 3, so you don't want that. All right, hooks up. This is where we actually get into the knit stitch itself, okay? So like the Tunisian Simple Stitch, we're going to be working in this bar, but in a slightly different way. So the Tunisian stitch, we actually go through the front part of it, right? With the knit stitch, see how you can kind of see almost like a V right there? You're actually going to insert it, but you're going to push it to the back of your work. So you're going to kind of go in between that bar and you're going to put it right to the back of your work. You're going to pull it up, yarn over, pull up that loop, insert your hook into that spot again, to the back. And you're going to keep doing that until you get to the end of your row. Now, just like with the simple stitch, the knit stitch, you're going to actually identify that end of the row, the V or the braid. You're going to insert your hook into that actual braid. So right there, that's where you're going to insert your hook. That's your final stitch of the row. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop. Then you're going to yarn over, pull through 1 loop on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to keep doing that until you get to the end of the row. That is your return pass. So just to recap the difference between the simple stitch and the knit stitch. So the simple stitch, you're going just into that vertical bar, just in that front part. The knit stitch, instead of just going into that front vertical bar, you're going all the way through to the back of the work, okay? Now I wanted to kind of go over the fact that if your fabric immediately starts rolling up like it's trying to escape, then you did it right. You didn't mess up. This stitch actually curls way more than the Tunisian Simple Stitch. It just does. So what I find that helps is even stitching. You know, don't yank your loops. Make sure that no matter whether they're too tight or too loose, that you're staying at the same tension. And then blocking. I actually use a steam iron to block my work, and sometimes I do it as I go because it annoys me when it curls up like that. And then, you know, just accepting that some curl is structural, not personal. So why is this stitch worth learning? This gives you a true knit look with crochet hook. It creates a dense, warm fabric. It pairs beautifully with other Tunisian stitches, and it makes people ask, wait, that's crochet? Which is always, it's always fun to hear that too. So today we're talking about why Tunisian crochet curls, what actually helps control it, and this part matters, when you should stop fighting it altogether. And yes, I am also sharing my steam iron trick because I've never seen anybody else talk about this, and it does change everything. As you can see from my little swatch, I've got a little swatch of Tunisian knit stitch, and this is the biggest culprit of that curl. So why does Tunisian crochet curl? Tunisian crochet curls because the stitches pull in one direction. The forward pass builds that tension. So when you're going this direction, it builds that tension. And the fabric has no reason to lay flat unless you give it a reason. As you can see, this happens even with good tension, even with experience, even when you do everything right. Curl is structural, it's not personal. So what fixes it, right? Let me show you the difference here. So as you can see, this is the knit stitch and this is the simple stitch. If you want less curl, so this is fix number 1, you want to mix your stitches on purpose. So if you want less curl, stop using just one stitch. What works? You can do Tunisian knit stitch and Tunisian simple stitch. Knit stitch the body with a simple stitch edging, so you could use the knit body and then use the simple to complete the edging or the bind off. Then you have the alternating, so you can alternate the knit and the simple stitch. So different stitches, they pull in different directions. That tension balance is what calms that curl. This is why ribbing works and why stitch combos behave better than all knit fabric. Fix number 2. Your borders and edges aren't just decoration, they're reinforcement. Some good options are Tunisian simple stitch border. So like my hat that I did, when I bound it off, I did the simple stitch, and then if you look at the edging here, I also did the simple stitch to kind of make it look like a ribbing. So I combined the two stitches to make that curl a little bit less. Another stitch that is very common is the reverse single crochet, which I use that quite a bit in Tunisian as well, just to do it as that border. Now, you don't need a massive border. Just sometimes just a few stitches are enough to keep things under control. Okay, moving on to fix number 3. Tunisian crochet likes a bigger hook than what you think. So rule of thumb is go 1 to 2 hook sizes larger than the yarn label suggests. So let's say your yarn label suggests a F hook. Then I would suggest there's G and then H, maybe go with an H. Or if it's a G, maybe go with an I hook. So from this, I would say this would probably be equivalent to an F hook, and then, well, yeah, it would be equivalent to an F hook. And then I actually prefer to use my I hook for my Tunisian quite a bit. I mean, that's my go-to Tunisian hook. I haven't worn it out just yet, but it's getting there. So keep this in mind. A smaller hook is going to have denser fabric. You're going to have more curl. Looser loops, you're going to have calmer fabric. And like in my hat, I actually used my smaller hook because even though I knew it was going to curl, I used my smaller hook because I wanted to make sure that my fabric was denser. On to fix number 4. So most of your curl comes from the forward pass, not the return. So don't yank your loops up tall. Keep your loop height consistent and relax your grip. The forward pass decides whether your fabric behaves. So what I mean by that is that you want to make sure that your loop height matches your hook. You don't want it to go too high and then you've got a big old loop like this. You know, you don't want to pull it up really high, and then you just want to make sure that your tension is matching all the way across. Doesn't matter if it's really looser or if it's tighter, you just want to make sure that it is matching, like you are consistent all the way through, because otherwise you are definitely for sure going to have curl. On to my 5th fix, which is my favorite fix. And that is my steam iron method. This is my favorite tip, and I almost never see anybody else ever talk about it. I use a steam iron while I'm still working the project. Not necessarily to finish it, not to make it perfect, but to check my measurements and to calm the curl as I go. So here's how I use it. I pause every few rows. I would say a few rows. Sometimes I do a big chunk of rows. So like for me, this isn't too out of the ordinary to do a swatch like this size before I decide to actually steam it out. I use a light steam only, no pressing. You don't want to use a regular ordinary iron. It has to be a steam iron because if you use an ordinary iron, it's going to melt your yarn. You want to do it just enough to relax the stitches. So it should look something similar to like this. So once it relaxes those stitches, you're going to be able to see that it fairly flattens out fairly well. You want to let it cool completely before continuing. And just so you know, it will squeak just like yarn does when your cat or dog play with your yarn. Yes, we've all been there, right? When your dog or your cat decide to help you with your crochet projects, and next thing you know, you've got squeaky yarn. I don't know about you, but that drives me crazy. So I let mine completely dry and cool once I've steamed it out before I start crocheting again, because it's kind of like the fingers on the chalkboard. You know what I'm talking about. So what exactly does the steam iron do? It gives you a more accurate measurement when you need to measure things, especially with curling stitches. It also lets you see the fabric, what the fabric wants to do and how it wants to behave before you commit. So if you're doing a small swatch like this, I would just go give it a good quick steam iron so you can kind of see what it's actually going to do. That way you know where to go with it. I use this consistently and constantly with the Tunisian niche stitch and structured projects. It's not about flattening it. It's about information more than anything. Now, my tip number 6, yarn choice matters. It really does. Some yarns curl more than others. So if you want less curl, you're going to go with a wool or wool blends, acrylics with that elasticity. Say that 20,000 times fast. And then if you want more curl, then go ahead with your bamboo, your cotton, or your linen yarns. If you're using cotton, borders and stitch mixing are non-negotiable. Now, when do you stop fighting the curl? Here's the part most tutorials skip. Sometimes curl is just fine. Curl works for you in hats, mittens, bags, structured wearables, projects with seams. Curl is only a problem when you need flat fabric. The goal isn't zero curl. The goal is controlled curl. Now, while you're designing, don't panic. Instead of asking, how do I fix this? Ask, where can I use this? Can you use it on a folded brim? Can you use ribbing? How about seams, openings? Curl becomes a feature when you design with it instead of against it. Now this is exactly why I use stitch mixing. Ribbing and steam as you go in projects like my Tunisian messy bun hat. The curl was there, but it was intentional, it was controlled, and it was functional. If this saved you from rage frogging a Tunisian project, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone currently arguing with their yarn. If you think changing colors in Tunisian crochet means cutting yarn every 5 minutes, good news, it doesn't. And depending on how you do it, you might not cut it at all. Because this is one of those things that sounds complicated, but is actually one of Tunisian's superpowers. Let's look at the big picture, why Tunisian is different. Tunisian crochet gives us 2 moments in change color. The forward pass and the return pass. And once you understand that, you can change colors every row, every pass, or rotate multiple colors without cutting yarn. That's why Tunisian is so flexible and why it's perfect for stripes, chevrons, and color work. This is the simplest way to start. You work your entire forward pass in color A, okay? Then when you begin the return pass, you switch to color B. So I'm going to do my forward, finish my forward pass. So this is color A. Let me adjust my camera just a little bit here. There we go. So we're working our entire forward pass in color A, right? Now, I have already created this so that all I had to do is pick up the color that I had been working on. But for you, you just add it on, like as if you're just doing a yarn over. It's really simple. You don't need to do anything else. Don't need to put a knot on the end. Don't need to do any fancy gymnastics. You just add the yarn to the color or to your swatch, or whatever it is that you're working on. So I had pink down here at this end. So I'm going to drop well, it's kind of a bluish green. And I pick up my pink. And you just yarn over just like that. It's so simple. And it creates, if you look at it, it creates its own little braid on the end. Then you do the entire back pass with the new color. It seems so simple, right? This gives you that clean horizontal color changes and keeps the fabric nice and balanced, right? Now, if you'll notice, I actually did something different here, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. Now, if you are simply using two colors, here's the part most people don't realize. If you're using two colors, you usually do not need to cut your yarn. What I usually do is I change my color on the back pass, and I use the same color. So I did my back pass with the pink, and then I would use my same color, the pink, to do my forward pass. And that's pretty much it. No snipping, no extra ends. The yarn just waits where it belongs. If you ever feel like you're cutting yarn too often in Tunisian, you probably don't need to. Now wait, you notice I have three colors here, right? That's the wonders of this whole thing. This is where Tunisian really shines. If you're working with three colors, which I often do, you can often rotate them without cutting. And here's how it works. As you can see, I did color A in the forward pass, then I did color B in the back pass or the return pass, and then the next row we're going to pick up color C on the forward pass and then rotate it again on the return pass, right? So let's look at that in real time, how that works. So, and this is where I was telling you I would show you how to do it a little extra. So I have my third color here, right? But I don't want to do an extra yarn over, pull through your Tunisian way, right? You want to take that last stitch and go through both of those colors, right? Now, we're going to drop this color and we're going to pick up the new color, which is the white from the previous row. And you'll see also how this is creating a braid on the end, like a different colored braid on each side. I love this part that it creates that little braid. So now I dropped the pink and now I'm picking up the white. We're going to pick up that first blue because our blue was the back, or no, the blue was the forward pass, the pink was the black back pass. So we're going to pick up the blue and we're just going to keep going like that. This is one of the reasons why I find Tunisian so fun, because there are unlimited possibilities. Now, I have never done a color more than 3, but I have seen more than 3 colors. So we did pink and blue, so we should have pink or blue at the other end. Actually, no, blue should be at the other end. My apologies. I got myself all excited. And what I was thinking is that, because like I said, I've never done more than 3 colors, but I would imagine there's might be some snipping that you would have to do if you're using more than 3 colors. And then, of course, at the end of your forward pass, you're going to pick up a strand of the blue and strand of the pink. That's going to be your full braid that you're picking up. Bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Now, we're at the end of that row, so we're going to drop the white and pick up the blue to do the back pass. Just like that. Is that not satisfying? I don't know what is, but it to me, it is completely and totally satisfying to see that. And you know, I was thinking this would be perfect if you are going to do a baby blanket and you don't know what the sex of the child is. You can do both pink and blue, or pink, blue, green, all kinds of different combinations. And so it makes it a unique style blanket. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still cut the yarn anytime you want to, especially for those clean edges or large color blocks. But Tunisian gives you options, and options mean fewer ends and happier crocheters. Now let's talk about what this technique is great for. It's great for striped Tunisian projects. You can do chevrons with it, hats, blankets, and anything where color is part of the design. And once you get comfortable with when to change color, everything starts to click. If you love the look of chevrons but hate counting to 47 every single row, Congratulations, you found your people. Because today we're doing Tunisian Chevron. All the zigzag drama, none of the emotional damage. For this swatch, I'm using my usual, I love this yarn. And of course you need your Tunisian hook. Nothing fancy, just long enough to hold all your feelings. Now you may be asking, why is this worth it, right? This stitch is absolutely perfect for blankets, scarves, panels, anything where you want texture that looks impressive but secretly chill. And the best part, once you see the repeat, your hands go on autopilot. Your brain gets a coffee break. Now, stick around because I'll show you the one spot people mess up that turns chevrons into sad waves. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the foundation. Chevron stitches, they're dramatic, so they'll need multiples, no freelancing here. So we work in multiples of 14. Now, if you decide to, you can do a foundation row like I did on mine. I did a single crochet foundation row, and if you do the single crochet foundation row, you just need to do 28 or 14, but the multiples of 14 exactly. Now, if you are going to do the chain foundation like I'm going to show you how to do now, it will be your multiples of 14 plus 1. So what that means is that like for this one in particular, I'm doing 28 stitches plus 1, which is 29. All right, so go ahead and do your chain of 29, and then we're going to pick up our loops like a normal simple stitch Tunisian. Nothing weird. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to, from the second chain on the hook, we're going to actually grab this back hump right here. And the reason why I do that is because I like having that braid on that side. So, and we just pick up a regular stitch all the way across, just like as if we would we're doing a regular Tunisian. Nothing fancy, right? And I'm sorry you guys hear me clicking the table every time I do a stitch. Let me finish my row and I'll come back. Okay, so I got mine on my hook, all ready to go. I forgot to mention that if you guys have never done Tunisian before, I would highly recommend watching my Simple Stitch Tunisian and the Knit Stitch Tunisian videos first. They will give you your foundation for all things Tunisian. All right, so now we're going to do the back pass. It's just like a regular back pass. And the next row that we start, that is where the magic is going to start. So as you can see, I just did the yarn over and pulled through 1 at the very beginning of the row. And then we do the yarn over, pull through 2 all the way to the end of the row. And then I actually, on my little sampler swatch, I picked up a second color on the back pass because I think it is so much fun to have multiple colors. In fact, I was thinking about doing a blanket with the Tunisian Chevron because it's such a pretty stitch. It just came out absolutely beautiful. So, all right, now here's where the fun comes in at the very next row. So this is where we're going to set up our chevron. So just to kind of explain things to you. So your peaks are made with increases and your valleys are made with decreases. Think mountains and snack breaks. I'm just kidding. But I think of it as going up the hill and down the hill. So to start with, we're going to go down the hill, okay? So we're going to, very first stitch, we're going to yarn over. We're going to skip this first one right here and go into the next stitch. And then we're going to count to 5. So we're going to do a simple stitch. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, to make the valley, we're going to take our hook and we're going to insert it into the next 3 stitches. So, and as you know, simple stitch is in that vertical bar. We're going to insert our hook into all of those 3 vertical bars. This is your decrease. Then you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull through all 3 of those. And I like to kind of snug it up just a little bit. All right, so now we're going to go up the hill. So we're going to go into the next 5 stitches. We're doing a simple stitch in the next 5 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, now we're going to be at the top of the mountain or the peak, and this is where you're going to increase. And to increase, we're just doing that yarn over like we did at the very beginning of our row. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the next one, yarn over one more time, and insert our hook into the next one. Now we're going to go down the valley. So think of it as when you're going down the valley, you're going to do 4 stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you go up the valley, and in the up valley you do 5. So, but now we're in the down stitch, so we're going to go into the next 3 stitches with our hook. 1, 2, 3. We're in the valley, and we're doing our decrease. I like to snug it up just a little bit. Normally I wouldn't say snug anything up in Tunisian, but I do like to do that on the decrease just a little bit. So now we're going to go uphill, so we're going to go into 5, the next 5 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we do an increase at the end of the row, so we're going to yarn over and we're going to insert our hook into that braid at the end. All right. So let me recap that. So we're going to do an increase, 1 increase at the very beginning of the row and 1 increase at the end of the row. Your valley is a decrease of 3, so you're inserting your hook into 3 stitches, yarning over and pulling through all 3. Then you go up the hill for 5 stitches, down the hill is 4 stitches, up the hill is 5. Then you do your peak, which is a yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, insert your hook. So basically you're doing the yarn over, the increase 2 times right there at the very peak of your hill, okay? Then down the valley is 4, decrease up the valley is 5, and then a decrease or increase at the very tail end, okay? Now, you do the back pass just like you would normal Tunisian crochet. So you yarn over, pull through that first one, yarn over, pull through 2, all the way to the end. No different, right? I actually think that this is so much easier than a regular chevron, believe it or not. I mean, once you get the hang of doing chevron in regular crochet, I mean, it's not really that difficult, but I just find that it seems to me like it's simpler in Tunisian. Okay, all the way to the end. Now, the next row is kind of where things get a little more complicated. So you know where we yarned over. So we have this one right here, and you see it kind of hides in the back, right? Let me get a little bit closer so you can see it. So it kind of hides back in the back right there. And then again, right here, it kind of hides in the back and hides in the back. We count those as a stitch, okay? And then it's down here at the end. You have the one that's hiding in the back. Might help if I have it in the frame. Yeah, right there in the back. So that counts as a stitch. So let's do that together. Now remember, at the very beginning of the stitch, you do the yarn over. Or the very beginning of the row, you do yarn over. Now you're going to grab that one stitch that's kind of hiding in the back there. That's going to count as 1. Then we go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, take a minute. We're gonna look at one of our cues, the way our stitches cue. So you'll kind of know if you're aiming right is if you see this little hole right there, nice little hole. Your decrease on the next row and every row after this is going to be the 2 stitches before and 1 after. So you're going to know when you see that that's where you're supposed to be, okay? And if it's not, then you know your count is wrong. So now that we did our 4, so we went down our hill. Now we're going to do our peak, or excuse me, our valley. We're going to insert our hook into those 3 stitches, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now we're going to go up the hill, so we're going to do a simple stitch in the next 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you'll see this is another one of your cues. So at the peak of your valley, that first yarn over that you found, that is your 5th stitch of the uphill. So now you're going to yarn over and go into the next stitch. Yarn over again one more time. And you'll know this is right because you're going into that yarn over from the previous row and doing your finished piece. Now you're going to go into the next 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you see that you are in the right place for your valley, right? You see 1, 2 before the hole and 1 after. And don't worry about the hole because it does, I'm going to go back and show that to you. You'll see that it does kind of close itself up after that. So now we're going back uphill. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now this is the part you don't want to forget. You do the yarn over on that after that 5th one and insert your hook into that little braid at the end, okay? And then we do our back pass as usual. I'm going to do this one more time and then I'm going to show you how to bind off. That's important because you bind off slightly different in a chevron than you do in regular Tunisian. Okay, let me go back just a little bit further. All right, one more row and then we'll bind off. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into that one that's hiding back behind there, the yarn over from the previous row. So that's the first one. Then we go 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the down the hill. Then we're going to go into the next 3 stitches with our hook to create the valley. Yarn over and pull through all 3. And normally in normal crochet you would do a slip stitch at the top, and let me tell you what, my mechanics, they want to do that. All right, so now we're going uphill, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and you know you're in the right place because you're going into that yarn over from the previous row. Then you yarn over, insert your hook in the next one, yarn over again, insert your hook into that yarn over from the previous row. Now we're going downhill, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're in our valley, so we're going to do our decrease. So we're inserting our hook into those 3 stitches, yarning over, pulling through all 3. Now we're going back uphill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yarn over, insert your hook into your braid, yarn over, pull through. Now, let's go ahead and do our back pass, and then we'll take a look at that and do a few more discussion items on my list here. So remember, it is the yarn over, pull through 1 at the very beginning of the back pass, then yarning over, pulling through 2 all the way to the end. So really the only difference between regular Tunisian crochet and the chevron is just those increases, those slight increases and the slight decreases in those specific areas. And this is where you want to take your time, because this row, it decides how sharp your chevrons are going to be, or they're going to be emotionally confused, one of the two. But once you got the forward pass down, the rest is just repeating the vibe. And from here on out, you're just repeating the same forward and the same return passes. This is great Netflix, but still productive stitch. Just don't blink during the valleys. Still with me? Okay, that is awesome to hear. This is a great moment to pause, count your stitches, and avoid future regret. Now, let's go to the common mistakes, aka why chevrons go rogue. If your fabric is leaning, shrinking, or giving abstract art, check these 3 things. If you make sure that you didn't, actually it's 4 things. If you skipped a decrease, you added an extra increase, or you trusted vibes instead of counting. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you is a mistake that I made in my own. Now, let's see if you guys can pinpoint what the problem is. Can you see what the problem is? Over here on this side? So what happened was I forgot the increase at the end of my row. So this is what it's going to look like if you forget the increase at the end of your row. So you don't want to forget that increase. That's important. So you always want to remember the increase at the beginning and the increase at the end. Now you may ask, why are you going to love this stitch? Tunisian Chevron gives you bold texture, clean geometry, and wow factor that looks harder than it is. And honestly, it feels good to watch it grow. I personally got mesmerized while I was doing this. That's why I forgot my yarn over. I got enthralled and I forgot my yarn over. And I tried to make up for it by putting it back in there, but it was too late. The damage was already done. Today we're learning Tunisian crochet in the round, what makes it different, what tools you need, and how it works without visible seams. Let's start with the hook because yes, this does matter. To crochet Tunisian in the round, you need a double-ended crochet hook with the same size on both ends. So each side has to have the same size hook on both sides, okay? You can use a straight double-ended hook, which is what I'm using today. A corded double-ended hook, I have seen them, and then an interchangeable hook system. I've seen some out there. I've never invested in them myself, just because up until this point I really hadn't done Tunisian enough to warrant getting a interchangeable hook system. I might be thinking about doing so because I'm finding that I'm doing Tunisian a lot more than I used to. But the key point is, as long as both ends are the same size, you're good. If they aren't, your fabric will absolutely snitch on you. One more thing before we actually start, you'll need 2 balls of yarn. They can be the same color or different colors, totally your choice. I'm using 2 different colors. One ball is used for the forward pass and the second ball is used for the return pass. This is what allows the fabric to appear seamless when worked in the round. Well, not necessarily the colors, but you'll see what I mean once we get into it. Here's the thing. I do want you to understand that we do turn our work in Tunisian crochet in the round. It's not like your traditional crochet where you are going around and around and around and around. You do need to kind of, we work it in sections and turn as we go. But we're still working a forward pass and a return pass. The difference is that the fabric is structured in a way that it makes it look seamless, even though we are turning our work. That illusion is the magic. Now, because the Tunisian crochet, the fabric looks seamless, and it really can be hard to tell where one round ends and the next begins. So I highly recommend placing a stitch marker in your first stitch. That way you always know where the round begins and where it ends and where you start your next forward pass. This saves a lot of guesswork and a lot of counting rage. Trust me, I've been there. Okay, let's get started. But I wanted to say there are several ways to start Tunisian crochet in the round. You can start from a chain foundation like I've got here, a single crochet foundation, or any other foundation row that works for your project, you know, single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, any of those you can use as your foundation. And you may have also seen this method too, especially for hats or, you know, something like that. Some crocheters, they start with a magic ring, work a few rounds in the regular crochet, and then switch to Tunisian crochet in the round. This gives you a tighter center and more flexibility before adding Tunisian texture. And yes, that method is completely valid. But for today's tutorial, I'm starting with the chain foundation because it is beginner friendly and lets you clearly see what is happening. Okay, so let's go ahead and chain our foundation. I have actually done 12 just for a sample size. You do whatever it is that you need to do for your particular project. At this point, we are not going to join. Now, if I was doing a foundation row, I actually do join it with a slip stitch because then I start my Tunisian right here is where I start it. If you can see that very well, but this is where I would start the Tunisian, and you'll see right here where it kind of sticks up on one side. So when I weave in my ends, I just connect that together. So it's really not that complicated once you get into it. But as you can see, you really can't tell where it ends and begins. But if you look on the back side, which is where it is right now, you can kind of see a little bit of variation, and that's where it was started. But for the most part, it is pretty seamless. Now, for Tunisian crochet, the first row is worked flat, and we don't join until the second row. This keeps everything aligned and prevents twisting right from the start. So let's begin. For row 1, we're going to start just like flat Tunisian. We're going to pick up our loops across the chain for the forward pass, just like you had done with the simple crochet. If you haven't actually done the simple crochet yet, or the simple Tunisian crochet, I would recommend stopping, watching that video, and then coming back to this because you need to know and understand at least the basics of the Tunisian crochet. And simple Tunisian is the best place to start. Okay, so I'm actually going to do one more because I am actually going to work from the second chain from the hook. I'm actually going to flip my work over so I can see this little bump. And then the reason why I do that is because I want this part to show on the bottom. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to do our forward pass. You're just going to go into that back hump just like you would regular Tunisian, leaving the strand on your hook. I don't know why I just said that. said hook like that. That was so weird. You hook. Yeah, I'm just checking to see if you guys are still awake at this point. You know, we gotta say silly stuff. Silly stuff, right? Silly stuff. Okay, so I've got my first forward pass ready to go. And we're going to add our second color or our second ball. It depends on whether you want it all to be one color or if you want it to have multiple colors. I like the multiple colors. And then we're going to do our back pass, doing the chain, yarning over, pulling through that one chain, yarning over, pulling through two, all the way down to the other end. I always find the back pass to be so smooth and so easy. Okay, now this is where the fun and the round begins. We are actually going to go into, we're going to drop, eventually we're going to drop our one color and pick up our other color. So we're going to pick up our white. You're always going to use your one color for your forward pass and then the other color for the back pass. So we're going to pick up this strand right here eventually. It's going to look weird at first. We're going to bring our two sides together. Okay, so we're going to bring our two sides together. You're actually going to crochet right in that one right here. Let me get this to the other side here so we can pick that up. All right. Now, let's pick up our colors. So it's going to look weird at first. I'm actually going to pull it through that. It's going to look weird right there first for a while, but eventually it will seem like it makes sense, right? So we're going to just keep picking up each of these vertical bars as your simple stitch. We're going to go as far as we can go within reason, okay? All right. And it's only the first row is really the most complicated one, and then once you get into it, well, actually, technically this is the second row. Once you get going. Okay, so that's as far as I feel like I'm comfortable going. So now I'm going to work on the other end of my crochet hook. We're going to flip our work over and we're going to pick up our other color again. Just do a yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two. We're going to keep going until I have 3 strands on my hook. Oops, I already did that. 3 strands. So you'll have 2 of one color and 1 of the other color. So now we're going to shove our hook the other side. We're going to flip it over again. We're going to start working the front pass. So now we're going to just keep going, working on the front pass. Just right in that vertical bar right there. Now I find starting your Tunisian in the round with a foundation row versus the chain foundation, I find it so much easier because you can actually basically start out the gate doing the in the round. Okay, so now I've got as many on there as I want to work with in this moment. So I'm going to push my hook to the other side, turn my work, grab our other color, and just keep doing the yarning over and pulling through 2. Until we have 3 on the hook, and then I'm going to flip it back over, push my hook to the other side, pick up my white, and then as you can see, I'm almost to the end here. I should have probably put a marker in there already, but I'll show you how to do that in a little bit here. So we're just going to keep going with the white now. Just like a simple stitch. Okay. Just like that. And now you see that we've gotten to the end of our row. We want to go straight into the next row, but let's pop a stitch marker in here. And you can put it any way you want to do it, whether you want to put it here or if you want to put it here. Maybe put it at the tail end so that you know that that's the last stitch for the round. All right, we've got our stitch marker in there. We're going to keep on going. So this is the seamless part, but we are not skipping that one. That is actually a stitch right there. So we're going to keep going. And eventually you're going to see how seamless this is. All right, so now I have as many loops on my hook that I am comfortable with working with. So I'm going to push my hook to the other side, grab the other color, and do my back pass. Oh, yep, and don't forget, when you've got 3 still on your hook, go ahead and switch it back over and go to the other side. It does seem a little fiddly when you first start doing it, but once you get the hang of it, man, it just is so smooth, and I love how it looks seamless. We're going to take a look at that again as soon as I get done with this particular row. All right, now I'm going to shove that through, flip it over, go to the other side. And then do your yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Just as a refresher. All right, we have 3 left on our hook, so I'm going to flip it back over this way. And I should be able to go to the end of the row. And I am going to show you how to do a bind off with Tunisian. It's very similar to Tunisian in the round, very similar to all the others. So, okay, so we know that this is the last one that because we have that stitch marker there. So we're going to put our last one in here for the moment anyway. All right, now I'm going to go to the other side, push my hook through. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to kind of, so basically from here, I mean, it just depends on how many rows you need to do or want to do. You just keep repeating this until you get to the size that you want. Now, once you get to the end, what we're going to do, instead of doing that extra, oh no, we're going to still do that extra yarn over. We got to make sure that the row is fully complete. All right, now I'm going to have to kind of pull that up a little bit so that it doesn't sag and bag. Now, depending on what color you want to have as the outside, you know, so like for this one, I used the darker color and I used it as the bind off as well. So maybe I want to use the white as the bind off. Usually you use the forward pass color. So it's just exactly like you would if you normally did an other bind off. You just do that slip stitch, put your hook into that vertical bar and do the slip stitch. And then you'd continue doing that all the way around until it starts looking like this. Now, because as you can see here, you see how this has an open gap? This is where you're going to use that end that you weave in to pull that gap together. And then it's completely seamless. If you look at my work here, you can't really, outside of the fact that I pointed out to you, you really can't tell where the row begins and ends. You only know because I pointed it out to you. But that's the favorite thing that I have about Tunisian in the round, is that you just can't see that. I absolutely love using this to crochet like gloves, particularly vertical or convertible gloves. Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. I don't know that it's really quite, we're having like -degree weathers right now, so I personally wouldn't wear a crochet glove in -degree weather, but you know, for 30 and above, it doesn't seem to be too bad to wear a crochet glove. But you can also use the Tunisian in the round to do other projects, hats. Don't know that you would do a scarf. Well, you could probably do an infinity scarf with the Tunisian in the round. That would actually be kind of cool. I might have to try that. Yeah, some of the other stuff you could do, cowls, sleeves, basically anything tubular where you don't want a visible seam. Now, if something feels a little off, you're going to want to check a few things first. Both ends of your hook, are they the same size? If not, then you need to figure out a different hook for your project. If you're using 2 balls of yarn, obviously you need 2 balls of yarn to make that work. If you added a second yarn on the return pass, and that's what makes it for me. When you don't add that second one, it just makes it really complicated. And then if you're using a stitch marker to track your rounds, those are some of my tips. And then I've kind of told you about you using the yarn, the end of your yarn of your project to close that little gap right there. And take your time. Once you get used to the vibe, it really goes quite quickly, but make sure that you are taking your time so you don't miss any of the horizontal bars, because sometimes I do that. Sometimes I miss that one horizontal bar, and then I wind up having a small project. I'm like, wait, what happened? And then, you know, I see three rows down that I missed one. But eventually I'm probably going to teach you how to increase with doing in round. I haven't figured out how to decrease, but I do know how to increase working in the round. Now, You may ask why this technique is worth learning. Tunisian crochet in the round gives you that seamless look like we've talked about already. Knit style texture, fewer ends to weave in, which feels like winning, right? At least that's the way it feels to me. And once you learn it, it opens the doors to a whole new category of projects. Way bigger amount of projects. Wow, you made it to the end of the Tunisian Crochet Master Class. And that is no small thing. By now, you've seen how Tunisian crochet works, how different stitches behave, how to control the fabric, and how far you can really take this technique. If you want to revisit a specific stitch or technique, jump back using the timestamps, or check out the individual videos if you'd rather focus on one lesson at a time. And if you're ready to put all of this into practice, I've got project videos waiting for you that build on everything you've learned here. If this masterclass helped you, give it a like. It really supports the channel. And subscribe if you'd like more crochet tutorials that explain the why, not just the how. Until next time, keep those stitches intentional and may your hooks never hide.